All right, hello everyone. If this is new for you, this is Hang Test Virtual Chalk Talks, and our fourth guest this season is Sierra Romero. Where are you at right now, Sierra? What location?
I'm in Florida right now.
Florida. Okay, and I'm in Arizona. So, but the purpose of our Chalk Talks is just to help provide guidance and an insight into the experience of others, whether they're former college or pro athletes, and have them tell us about their softball journey. It helps give girls, all the way from 8U through 18U, just some insight into humble beginnings to play in high school to their college experience and that transition. As well as the interest of playing women's pro sports like Sierra. So Sierra Romero is probably one of the greatest all-time softball players. She went to the University of Michigan, so I know a lot of you are very familiar with her. You were two-time NCAA Athlete of the Year. Is that correct?
It was for a different. It was ESPN. Player of the Year, and then as well as like the National Player of the Year. So the same year, but it was just two different Player of the Year awards.
Okay. And you set all types of records at U of M, as well as some NCAA records. And if you can maybe just kind of go over some of those with us.
Yeah, so I was a four-time All-American while I was at Michigan. Honda World Cup nominee, and I won it for the sport of softball. Let's see, I said I was four-time All-American. I was Big Ten Player of the Year 3 years. I went to the World Series 3 out of my 4 years. I hold the NCAA record for Grand Slams. I believe I'm like 12th overall for most home runs. Trying to think what else. I'm the only person in the 300 club. So 300 hits, 300 runs scored, and 300 RBIs. I started all 4 years at Michigan. I started at shortstop and I moved to second base going into, I think it was like middle of my sophomore year. I did the transition. I've played on both the USA national team as well as the Mexican national team. So I have a lot of experience with every level, from travel ball to college, international, and then pro as well. I played 6 years for the Pride out of Florida. And then I just finished up my first year with Athletes Unlimited in Chicago this past season. So that's a little bit about me. I'm the oldest of four. My sister Sydney went to the University of Oklahoma, and my brother Mikey just got drafted. So he's no longer going to LSU. He got drafted in the first round. So he's a professional baseball player now for the Boston Red Sox. And then my youngest sister, Sophia, is committed to play at Boise State, which she will be leaving as soon as she graduates, I believe in June. So awesome. A lot of baseball, softball family for sure.
Yeah. Big time sports family.
Oh yeah, always have been.
So Sierra, we're going to kind of run through our typical agenda, and then I wanted to spend a little time maybe on the back end talking about your summer with Athletes Unlimited this past summer, and then also some of your business ventures and endorsements and things like that.
Definitely.
So when did you start playing softball, and who inspired you to play?
So if you count t-ball, I started t-ball when I was 4, but I started travel ball when I was 8 years old. And I'm from California. I feel like you get into travel ball pretty young. At the time I was, 8 years old and traveling, playing all over. And I would say my biggest inspiration was definitely my dad, just because growing up, I watched him play in Mexico. I watched him hit home runs, and I got to actually see him in action. And so that really inspired me to want to play. And I used to fall asleep on his back watching baseball games when I was little. And when that was all happening, and all I ever wanted to do is play catch and throw a ball around. So eventually they put me into softball. So travel ball seriously started at 8 years old. I was like very serious about it and wanting to play with the older girls, even though I wasn't big enough or good enough. But that was really when it kind of started for me. And then having Sydney come along, who was only 3 years younger than me, she always played up, always played with me. It was nice to have kind of that like sister rivalry. We were always pushing each other. I also always had somebody to train with. But both my parents, my mom played softball too, but she only played in high school, but she was good. She's athletic. My mom's tough. So just having both my mom and my dad to just kind of be there to push all of us siblings and kids, and kind of just like push us in that right direction. And when we started to get lazy or forget kind of what we were trying to do with this, they, always brought us back down to earth and reminded us why we were working so hard towards the sport, which for us was, one, because we loved it, but two, we knew that softball and baseball were going to be a way for us to possibly make a living one day. But for us females, it was more so to get us to college and hopefully get some of it paid for, or possibly a full ride. So that was always something like ingrained in us at a young age. We were always told that if we wanted that, then that's what we had to do. We had to make sure that, we worked our butts off, and, that was definitely a possibility as long as we worked hard. So that was something that for us and our family, I feel like really guided us and really connected us, because we all had that same common goal. Even Sophia, the youngest one, she didn't play softball the entire time. At one point, she stepped away from it. She took on gymnastics and other things. And so, but she still had the idea of, I want to use this to get me to college. So everything we did it with a purpose, which made it a little bit easier when, you didn't want to work out on certain days, you're tired, or, you didn't want to be late to your prom or dance pictures and have the horrible tan lines. Like, we always saw the bigger picture, and we always made time for those things because we were kids. We wanted to experience all of that stuff. But for us, it was just remembering and reminding ourselves what that end goal was. My family, we didn't grow up with, a lot of money or anything like that. So my parents were very upfront and honest that if we wanted to go to college, it was going to be on us. We would have to take out loans, or we would have to get some type of academic or athletic scholarship to help us. So them being very upfront and honest with us in that sense, I feel like I think some people think it would have put pressure on us, and like to an extent, sure it did. But I mean, when you really think about it, I personally don't believe like your parents brought you into the earth to have to pay for you to go to college. That's a decision. That's something that you want to do. And if you want it, you have to work for it, because it's you and your future only. If your parents do want to and they can, like, that's awesome. That's amazing. But if they can't, that's something that if you want to pursue, like, it should be on you to work your butt off to get there.
I agree. And it also teaches you the value of that education. And so how about your high school accomplishments? Who did you play for in high school? And, what were how did your team do? How about you as an individual?
Yeah. So for high school, I went to Vista Marietta, and in California in general, I think, you hot spot for softball, just like many other states, but especially when I was in high school, our high school team was loaded. I mean, we were stacked. We had the Edwards twins, there was me, there was Sydney. When I was a senior, Sid was a freshman. Jordan, she played at Cal. I mean, we had pitchers going like, we had a really good team. And our school was really known for sports. Vista Marietta in general, I feel like, is very well known for sports, but it was nice because high school was kind of like a different setting for me. I kind of got to have a little more relaxed fun with softball. Not that travel ball wasn't fun. Travel ball was so fun, but I really enjoyed high school as well, because I mean, there weren't really any college coaches going to games. I think once I verbaled, my college coaches came out to just see me, to say hi. But I don't really ever recall college coaches at my high school games, but it was that time for me to kind of just play ball and relax. So it was definitely a time for me to just enjoy softball. I enjoyed it when I played in travel. I don't want you guys to think I did it. I didn't. I did. It's just that when I was playing in travel ball, I feel like I had like a business mindset on. I was like, this is how I'm going to get to college. So I kind of like flipped a switch, and I still had fun and all that stuff, but I was serious. Like, I wanted to win. I was very intense. It was fun, but like, I was very, very invested in it. And with high school, I feel like I got to just enjoy it a little bit more because I didn't feel the pressure of getting recruited, and I got to just play ball without that worry because, colleges were out working with their teams. They weren't going to high school games and stuff like that. So it was kind of that time for me to take a step back and relax. But, we made it to CIFs, made it to CIF championship game. We never won, but we made it, all the way to the championship game. But high school was always really fun for me, especially my senior year when I got to play with Sydney when she was a freshman.
Yeah, those are great memories, getting to play
Yep.
with your sibling. Man, it's hard to believe you guys didn't win state with that team.
That just kind of goes to show you how good the high school teams were in California. There was just as good, if not better, other high school teams. Modern Day was really good. I mean, a lot of people you guys know of and watched in college, we all played against each other at the high school level. It was kind of funny because we played against each other in travel ball, and then we'd meet up in high school, and all of us, I feel like we all had the same feeling. It was like a little bit of pressure was taken off when you're in high school. So it was more of like a rivalry between athletes. It was almost like travel ball team against travel ball team, but the high school version. So there was kind of like that nonstop, smack talking a little bit, it was Bat Busters. And then there was a high school team with Crone Angels on them. And we were always, going back and forth.
Yeah, very interesting. So how about your travel experience? I know you kind of touched on it just a little bit, but would you say then the travel experience is where the recruiting really happened for you, and how did it help you grow as a player playing travel ball?
I get this question a lot, and I think a lot of people hear this answer, but I don't know if people don't want to believe it or they think that it's not true, but travel ball is where you're going to get recruited. Travel ball is where you're going to get recruited, and then going to camps. That is like the holy grail for college coaches. That is what is going to get their attention. They're going to go out, watch your games. It's important your travel ball teams are able to go and play in the showcase tournaments that colleges are at. And if your travel ball team can't, that doesn't mean you won't get recruited. You just now need to go to a camp. You need to go to the college camps, and you need to put yourself in front of them. But what's important is that, you're ready when you do go to the college camps, because when you go, you're wanting to make a good impression, a good first impression. You're wanting to grab their attention. It doesn't mean you have to play perfect and everything needs to be so good. Yeah, you want to be on your A game, but if that doesn't happen, you want to make sure you are in the right space as an athlete, physically and mentally, to be ready to go to that college camp. Because the last thing you'd want is to go and not really stand out and then not go again. If anything, you should keep going to show them that you're improving, especially if you don't do well and it's a school that you really are wanting to go to. The worst thing you could do is go and then not have a great camp and then never go back again, even though that was your dream school. Go back, and even if you don't do as well, maybe you do a little bit better, and then maybe you go back again and you have an amazing camp, and they're like, wow, you got so good since the first time we last saw you. So don't take those negatives and just think oh shoot, I'm done for now, they're never going to recruit me. But travel ball and going to the college camps are going to be huge, because at the camps they can test you and see you in person and see what you're really capable of, because it's a controlled environment. And then with travel ball, obviously college coaches, they literally make time in their job to go out to the tournaments and recruit travel ball athletes. So that's definitely a big and important part of it. For me, you guys got to remember, my recruiting process was different. So when people ask me for advice on how I did it, to an extent, some of it's the same when it comes to the work ethic. The work ethic just doesn't change. That's still the same. But I was allowed to be recruited. I mean, I think I got my first offer when I was in 8th grade. And that's not allowed anymore. So obviously you guys know now you have to wait till your junior year. They can't be offering you. They shouldn't be offering you. That's not allowed, according to the NCAA rules. So now you wait till September 1st of your junior year. And then once that time hits, that's when you can get the phone calls and the coaches can call you and you guys can talk scholarships and next steps and things like that. But for me, my travel ball experience was just a little different because, I was on a really good travel ball team. We went to all of the showcase tournaments. I mean, it was it was really cool just because, I mean, I remember being at games and shoot, there was it seemed like there was like 100 college coaches there. I'm sure there's probably more like 50 or so, but maybe there were 100. I don't know. But everywhere I looked, I just saw all the different universities, all the gear, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like, you know, you get butterflies, you get a little bit nervous. But I was at all of those tournaments. Any big tournament that you can go to that is going to have those colleges at, that's the best thing to do for you guys. And those are the type of tournaments that I played in, the showcases. And aside from that, I also went to college camps. I figured out which camps I wanted to go to. And I actually started off by going to like a smaller schools camp because I was really nervous. I knew I was good, but like, I don't think I really knew how good I was. And so we went to a local camp. My dad took me and I just I bawled out. I was super anxious and scared and nervous. There's college coaches there, the college athletes were there helping the camp. And I was absolutely terrified. But I did really well. And that school was one of my first offers. They actually might've been my second offer, but that was my first camp I went to. And it was crazy because I didn't go to that camp because I was necessarily interested in that specific school. It was more so to really test myself and see how good I was, but also kind of get the jitters out, if that makes sense. Cause it is nerve wracking. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, you're going to go to camp and you're not going to be nervous at all. When you care about something, you naturally get nervous and you get a little bit scared. And I mean, to this day, I step on the field, I still get nervous. I still get scared. And it's because I care about my performance. I want to do well. And so that was kind of me testing it out. And then after that happened, I feel like I got way more comfortable and more confident in myself. And that was when I started to go to more camps and I just started to feel more confident about myself as an athlete. But I'm trying to remember what it was at the time when I was in travel ball. There was a big event that Mike Stith hosted. It was maybe it was called top 50 prospects or something like that. And he invited 15 of what I believe he thought or the nation thought were the best athletes in travel ball. And he invited them out to a camp and he invited a ton of college coaches. And one side was a huge, huge bleacher filled with college coaches in the stands and standing around. And the other side, all of our parents watching. And they just ran us through a ton of reps. It wasn't even really drills. It was a lot of ground ball reps. So colleges could see you field. It was a lot of hitting, whether it was front toss, machine. I remember we did live off of men's fast pitch pitchers. The couple of them were trying to throw it by you and throwing curves and inside outside. But then there was also a round of just fastballs so they could really see you hit. But they also wanted to test you. So that way the college coaches could see you tested. And so they actually had men's fast pitch pitchers out there throwing to us. And that was actually the first time Michigan saw me, was at that event. And when Michigan saw me, it's funny because they didn't even approach me or say anything to me right away. They mentioned to my coach that they thought that I was good. And then next thing you know, just about every single game that I was at travel ball, I would always see Mays somewhere in the crowd. And so I knew that they were there and they were watching me, and, it made me want to play, even harder and better because I'm like, oh shoot, this is my chance. And so sometimes it's really all it takes. I think athletes ask a lot, well, what do I have to do to get seen? And my first offer was from BYU, and it was a full ride offer. And the coach, he had came to my game because I asked him, I was on the phone talking to him, and I was so confused because I didn't know why, I hadn't expressed interest in BYU, nothing. And we had a phone call and I'm talking to the coach and he was like, I just think you're an amazing athlete. I think you're going to be great and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, wow, this is so cool. And I was curious. So I asked him, I was like, I'm just, I'm wondering why me? Why did you watch me? What was intriguing to you? And he was honest. He was like, the funny thing is I was at your game, but I wasn't there to watch you. He was like, I was there to watch your other teammate. And I was like, oh, really? And he was like, yeah, he didn't even know about me, who I was, nothing. He was there to watch. And while he was watching her play, he said that there was a foul. and I sprinted really hard. And sorry, I think somebody's not on mute.
I just muted them.
Hard for the foul ball. And once the ball was like not even in play, and it went over the fence, and but I'm over there running, just about ready to try to jump over the fence to get it. And he said that after he saw me run for the foul ball, he immediately kept watching me the rest of the game. And then once he noticed me and kept watching me the rest of the game, he realized, oh wow, like she's pretty good. And then he continued to watch me. And then next thing you know, he's, calling me, offering me a full ride. And it's crazy, because I think sometimes athletes think like, oh, they have to have you on their radar if you're going to go to that school. Not necessarily. They could be there to watch somebody else, and it ends up working out in your favor, which is why, like, sometimes people are like, well, I don't want to play on a team that's like super, super good, because then if I don't stand out, like, no, that's when you need to bet on yourself, because when you're on a team that's pretty good like that, those college coaches are going to naturally gravitate to watch those quote unquote better players. And then boom, there you are showing out, and they're like, wow, I like her. And that's what happened to me. They weren't there to watch me. They were there to watch somebody else, and they stumbled upon me. So it ended up working out in my favor. Definitely.
That's a great point, because we do kind of emphasize that with our girls too, from 13 on up, that and it goes all the way from the way that you act, your body language, the way you conduct yourself. Somebody's always watching, or somebody could be there watching. Just like you said, they might not be there watching for you, but you need to be aware that somebody could be watching you during the game. And there's all kinds of opportunities that you can either have, or if you react negatively, you could lose.
Yeah. I think some girls don't think that's true, but I coached at Oregon. I was a volunteer coach at Oregon for 1 year with Coach Lombardi. So I got to see the recruiting and hear the stories. And, now my sister is the hitting coach at Duke, and she was recruiting, and I was out watching our youngest sister play. And it just so happened that we all were in the same area. So we got together, but she was recruiting somebody else on my sister's team. So we're all watching the game. And, she was telling me a story. She was like, yeah, I went to go watch this girl that was on our radar. And after she struck out, I watched her, she went back into the dugout and like mouthed off at one of the girls who tried to like be like, hey, you're good, you'll get him next time. She like mouthed off and kind of yelled at her teammate. And Sydney was like, I immediately crossed her off our list, because that's not the type of player that we want at our university. So when coaches say that they're, college coaches are watching you all the way from the field off, they are. I've seen college coaches cross somebody off because they walk off the field and they immediately hand all their gear to their parents, and they're like, here, carry my stuff. And the college coach is like, what the, like, you're too old to be having your parents carry your stuff, So they're watching a lot of things. They're going to watch how you talk to your teammates, your coaches, and they're going to watch how you talk to your parents and how you interact with them. Because if you're disrespectful or rude to your parents, why would you not be rude or disrespectful to them as a coach if you're that way to your own family? So they're watching everything because you're an investment. At the end of the day, you have to remember that college is a business, and, college coaches, it's their job to put a good team on the field. So you are an investment for them and the university. And they want to make sure that you are a perfect fit, because, it's their job on the line. So that's why they're looking at every single little detail.
Yes, absolutely. And also another, good point, and you were kind of alluding to it before, is that sometimes those college recruits and scouts, they're sitting there and they're watching the players that they're there to watch, but they're watching to see what happens when they fail. Like, what's their reaction? It's fine and dandy that somebody has a great day and you can see them play well, but how do they react when they don't do well? Do they go back out? Do they regroup?
I mean, as a perfect example of this is my youngest sister, Sophia. She's never had like a bad attitude or anything like that, but her development process with softball took a lot longer than, say, mine and Sid's, probably because she stopped playing for a little while during the time when most people were really getting their names out there. That like 12U, 14U age, where more so 14U now with the new rule, where they're trying to decide, okay, who are we really going to look at as they get older? She wasn't playing around those times. And so when she came back, she had a long ways to go. And some schools were like, nope, they kind of just crossed her off. Whereas other ones, they would go watch and she would have a bad game. But if you have a bad game, don't think a coach is just like, like we're just done with her. All they're doing is they're making notes, because what they want to do is they want to see progress. They don't expect you to be perfect every single time that they are out there. They're just hoping to see progress and development in you as an athlete, because if they see that, that means that they can work with that. If you're getting worse or not getting any better, because maybe you're not training, you're not working out, you're not doing the things that an elite athlete that wants to play in college should be doing, they're worried that they're going to have to try to force you to do that when you get to their university. And they don't want to feel like they have to force you to have that elite mindset. And so like for Sophia, she was, okay, average. And her coach at Boise had been keeping tabs on her. And, he would keep stuff saying, okay, she's doing well, like swing's looking good. And maybe she struck out. She was 0 for 4, whatever. Next time he sees her, oh, wow, she was 2 for 4. She's slapping, she's doing all that. Then he sees her again. Wow, Sophia had a great weekend. She slapped, she hit away. And then all of a sudden, the 4th time he sees her, he realizes, wow, Sophia doesn't really slap anymore. She's a power hitter now. So every single time he's seen her, she's constantly gotten better and developed more, which is exactly what they want to see, because they can work with that. But by no means, did he cross her off after the first 2 times and she, didn't do very well. They're going to keep coming back and checking you out, but they just want to see progress. That's the biggest thing, is that they just want to see you getting better and that you are trying to up your game constantly, because it doesn't even matter when you get to college, right? Every single year you're trying to be better than the last.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's great. So how about you? You got to college, you got to the school that you wanted to go to, good fit. And obviously you had a really good track record there. You accomplished a lot. What was that transition from high school to college like for you? What did you expect going to college, and what was unexpected when you got there?
I think I expected all the softball stuff. I didn't realize how intense it would be. Again, I think that what I did in travel ball was very similar to what I did in college. However, it's like times 100, because I don't even know if you could actually really try to mimic the college like scene. I feel like it'd be really hard to do that when you're in high school, just because classes are easier. This class schedule aren't, it's like you go to school from this time to this time and then you have the rest of the day off. Where in college, it can be a little bit all over the place. You could have random 2-hour breaks in the days where you're actually getting your lift in. And I think the biggest transition for me was the time management. I knew time management from travel ball, but I knew it because it was always the same. In college, it changed. My class schedules were different on certain days. We had lifting on some days and some days we didn't. And then I would still try to get in extra work. We had, mandatory study hall hours. We had events like softball events that we had to go to because we were representing Michigan softball. So, it could have been a donor event and, like an endowed scholar event, like anything like that. And there's other things, because you're more than just recording. You're also a Michigan softball athlete as well. So you want to make sure that you are, putting on a good face and you're representing not only yourself, but the university really well. So I think the hardest part for me was the time management. But, at every university, they're going to have different tools and people to help you and in place to help you succeed. And I took full advantage of that. Once I realized that I definitely needed it, I got it wasn't a tutor. It was more like a advisor. And so what I did was I would go into the academic center, I would meet with her, and she would basically almost like help me plan out my week. So that way I could stay on time and get everything done, but still be the elite athlete that I also wanted to be. Because what I had a hard time doing was, it was hard for me to be the good student and a good softball player. I always felt like if I focused more on school softball, I wasn't doing so well. If I focused more on softball, school didn't go so well. So I was trying to figure out how to balance both of them. And so once I had that academic advisor that really, really helped me a lot. So, definitely when you get to school, I mean, I wish I would have just got one right away, because even if I didn't need it, then, I would have realized, hey, I don't need this and I'm good. And we could have just crossed it off. Instead, I had to realize, oh, shoot, I need help in this area. So I would definitely recommend it because it helped me a ton.
Awesome. Yeah, that helps a lot of the girls that are, obviously looking at colleges right now and planning on going to school, and just something to add to their list, as they're going and talk to their coaches in the school about. So that's good. How about we can jump into your, well, first I wanted to say I ran into Hutch last week. She was in San Antonio at the NFCA conference and at the convention. And I told her that we were going to be doing our little virtual chalk talks, and she said to say hello to you.
Oh, I miss her. I think I would. Her. I saw her. It might have been I think I last saw her at AU. And it was just after she had announced her retirement. So she was there, to send off Chitty. Chitty was retiring. So it was nice. Her and, Juan and all them were out there. So it was really cool.
Yeah, she's very nice, very approachable, and, great to talk to about softball.
Oh, yeah.
So what was so you went from college, you were drafted, right? You were what, like second?
Yeah.
The second draft pick for the Pride?
Yep.
And then you went on to play for the Pride for how many years?
I played for the Pride for 6 years.
6 years. And then you just recently played for your first season with Athletes Unlimited, correct?
I just finished. I finished that season end of August, beginning of September. That was really cool. I was like kind of not sure how I'd feel about it, just with it being quote unquote different type of softball, but it really wasn't. Sure, it's point based and everything else, but at the end of the day, all you're trying to do as an athlete is win. Sure, there's some strategy in there, like later on, especially as you get towards the end and you're trying to figure out where you're going to end up on the leaderboard. But all I ever focused on was just trying to win games. That was my approach at AUX in San Diego, and that was the same approach I had at AU in Chicago. I just tried to win games, and I think the hardest part was the constant switching of teams. You could never really get comfortable with people. That was like I've always been used to like getting comfortable with who my shortstop was, who my right fielder was, first baseman. Like I knew how they played, how much ground I needed to cover. I think that changing of teams is what makes it really hard. It's fun though. I mean, I loved it. I loved the challenge of it. And I'm excited because I feel like after having gone through it, now I will train totally different for next season. Not that I didn't train well enough for this past season. I did. I don't think that I didn't really know how it was going to go. So I just trained how I normally would. So I think that I would train a little bit differently, just knowing now kind of how it works and how AU, the point system works, but also just kind of how fatigued or not fatigued I got during certain times to be able to get the most out of my swing. And then again, this was also my first season back post ACL injury. So I really didn't know how I was going to feel. Normally I can make it pretty far and without getting super fatigued. And there were times where, my leg was hurting, and not in a bad way. It's just, my knee wasn't used to it. It hadn't been put through that in 3 years. So I had just been trying to figure out this new knee, and I was just pumped to be back out on the field. So even when it was hurting, I really didn't care. I was like, I'm just happy to be out here. So, but it was a lot of fun. It was such a great experience. And if you guys, anybody watching this, if you are able to go to Chicago, whether you drive, fly, whatever it might be, the atmosphere there is so cool. It's so cool. They have such a cool field, the dome, everything, just the way they go about it. The games are on TV. They were on ESPN this past year. So make sure you guys are watching and following along, and, follow all of them, all your favorite athletes and stuff on social media, because especially like those AU athletes, like they're posting a lot, they're sharing a lot about what they're doing. Everyone's playing for a different cause, and AU gives back to different charities that the athlete is representing. So it's really cool, the things that they do.
I thought it was really cool at the NFCA convention. They did talk about the growth of softball. I think it was Mike Kindreas was talking about it, and just how, like this ESPN contract, that was a huge thing for women's sports, and the sport of softball is just taking off. It's across the nation. In Europe, it's starting to take off. So it's really good to see women's sports being promoted the way it is now and continuing to grow.
Definitely. It is. It really is. And I think that AU really shocked everybody. I mean, because even before I was a part of it, I didn't know what it was going to be like. For me, I hadn't really played in anything that brought that much joy to me since Michigan. And then all of a sudden, like, I don't know what it was about AU. I just was on a different level. I was just so happy. I really felt like I was back at Michigan again. I don't know if it was just because the way that all the pro athletes rallied around each other and supported each other, and everybody was so invested in one another, and the friendships, and just like all the like amazing women just kind of talking shop about what they do, what their interests are, where softball's at, how we still have room to grow and how we need to grow, and like just having very good real conversations. It was definitely different, and I really enjoyed it because we had a voice and they wanted us to use it, and I thought it was really cool.
And kind of off of that, or spinning off of that topic, Hang Tough has really, pushed, and our mission is kind of evolving. And it's about empowering young women now, both to succeed in the sport of softball, but also to succeed in life. We're really trying to follow our players, even, as they transition through college, even if they're just going to college and not playing ball, and supporting them, or if they're finishing college and not playing ball anymore, how are they transitioning out of it? Mental health awareness. There's just a lot of things that we're trying to stay involved with. But as you were discussing, just how the sport is changing and growing and all these positives, I really think, on behalf of Hang Tough, I really think that you're doing things the right way. I like when I'm following you and I'm watching you, how you are selecting, projects to endorse or activities to do, and based on empowering women. And it's not just for yourself, it's for building for the future, all these other young athletes that will be coming up to have, more opportunities. And I wish more female athletes would be focused on that. And it's something that we want to talk about at Hang Tough.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that. I really try to, with any and all sponsors that I have, I really try to find, is this going to be a good partnership, not just financially, but for the game of softball. And, I was with my old glove company, and, that was awesome. And we did some really cool things. And, now I'm with Rawlings, and I'm just excited because now so many more companies are wanting to get involved because they see how important fast pitch is, and they see how fast it's growing, and just the audience is there. The athletes are there, and they want more. And so I think that they're realizing, oh shoot, we can't just focus on baseball. We need to pay attention to fast pitch. And, one sponsor that has been just like so amazing since I started with them has been New Balance. They have been, I don't even know how to describe it. They have just really listened and asked so many questions because they want to learn more. They want to understand. They want to help. I went to a photo shoot with Sydney not too long ago, and they sat us down and they recorded the conversation. They asked us questions. They asked about income and things, how much we make, and, very deep and personal questions. And they wanted to understand because they want it to change and they want it to get better because, New Balance works with some of the most well-known athletes in the world. They have Lindor, they have Coco Gauff, one of the best tennis players. I think she's like 15 or 16. And so they want to help, and they want to figure out how they can do it. And, they've been amazing to both Sydney and I, and they've listened to us. And I had a cleat that came out with New Balance and a turf, and there's going to be more stuff coming out. So it's been really awesome just to have them, by my side, and all my sponsors. Some of my other ones are new, but they all have the same vision and same mission, and they want to know more and about what they can do, and they want to create the best fast pitch product. So it's really cool to work with companies that are so like-minded.
Yeah. Well, we really appreciate your efforts in doing that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And then I guess the last thing I had on my list here, before we open it up for questions, is just that we do have an upcoming camp with you. Again, following up on last year, but it's on February 25th and 26th. And we do have that flyer posted. And if you want additional information, you can contact us at Hang Tough Softball, actually Hang Tough Fast Pitch Club at gmail.com. And then we do have the link for the site listed, so you can go through Sierra's company, because the money won't go through Hang Tough. It'll go directly to Sierra for signing up for that clinic. So we're looking forward to seeing you again and helping you out with that camp. I'm
excited to go back. The last one was really good, so I'm excited. And then hopefully I'll have some nice little giveaway goodies. I don't know if you guys saw, I took over Rawlings today, so I'll be giving away this after our call is over to whoever I choose to win the giveaway page. We had like instructions that you had to follow, and then the winner is going to get that glove. Then like people asked Q&A questions, and then the person whose Q&A question I like the most, I'll be sending a signed softball to. So make sure you guys follow along on social medias, whether it's Rawlings, G4, or mine, because there's going to be giveaways, and there's always even more around the holidays. But there's going to be a lot of stuff coming, because I have some things coming out with different companies, some signature items. So with signature items always is going to come some giveaways and stuff like that. So make sure you guys follow along so you don't miss out on all that stuff.
Okay. Yep, definitely. We'll check it out. All right. We're going to open it up for questions for anybody. So there's not a bad question, or you guys can send it in the chat as well if you don't want to speak out in person, and we can read it off to Sierra and go from there. Who's our first brave soul? Okay, we got Peyton. What made you choose Michigan, Sierra?
It was a combination of a lot of things. I loved the coaching staff. I loved the university, just like the look of it. I loved the facilities. On top of that, like when we go for visits, they're going to take you through like the academic center, tell you a little bit about, what a Michigan degree is worth, and, the education that you're going to get there. And I fell in love with it. The coaching staff was amazing. And I thought the athletes at the time that were there were awesome. And even though I was only going to play with the freshmen that were there at the time, I loved how they all treated each other and spoke to one another, and they felt like a family. And I was like, okay, this is the type of team I want to be on. I'm a big football girl. I do enjoy football. And the big house is the big house. So, I mean, I fell in love with that. I got to see the tailgating and just how crazy all the fans get. And I really wanted to go to a school like that, something different. And I actually went when it was snowing. I want to say it was like 10 degrees out, because I wanted to make sure I could handle the cold, because I'm from California. And I didn't mind. I knew I could at least do it for 4 to 5 years. So I was like, I can do this. But I loved everything about the school. I think the big thing for me was just the connection I felt to the coaching staff, but also I don't know why, but I felt like I had this connection to the university, even though I didn't know it well enough yet. It's a weird feeling. A lot of athletes that, whether they're in college or they've graduated, you can ask all of them the question, and I feel like they all answer it the same. You just get this feeling when you step on campus, and it's like, you just know I feel at home, and I feel like this is the place for me. And I really loved it. When I went, I wrote a pros and cons, and I literally had no cons on my sheet other than it snowed. And I was like, well, that's not a good enough reason to not go to the school just because of some snow. So everything else had checked off.
And then after you left Michigan, you went to Florida.
Exactly. See, I graduated, I got my degree, and then I just went somewhere warm.
The next question we have is, what were your favorite offensive and defensive drills that carried you with your travel ball and your college teams? Maybe something that was consistent, or maybe a drill that stood out to you.
One drill is extension. I know that with Hang Tough, I know for a fact we did that drill because I don't think I ever do a camp and I don't teach extension, even if it's a camp that I'm repeating, meaning I was there the previous year. We're still going to do extension because you should still be working on it, because if I'm still working on it, you should still be working on it. Just because we worked on it one time, it doesn't mean it just goes away. But extension is a huge one. That's something that I still do to this day. I will forever do it as long as I'm playing softball. But that one has consistently been there on the offensive side. Defense, I'd say the one thing that always was in my defensive training was footwork. It's crazy how if you have good footwork and you're moving quickly and you're getting to the ball and you're able to be balanced while doing that, just how well you can field. It's a lot harder to field when you don't get your body there, when you don't get your feet in the correct position. So being able to move efficiently and have good footwork, I think that was huge. And there wasn't one specific drill that I did. I just always implemented footwork, and that could have been ladders. It could have been, cone drills and then fielding. But I always focused on my feet.
Okay. The next question: what infield position did you enjoy the most?
I really like second base. I loved shortstop, but I feel like at second base, you're involved in every single play, like everything, all the way down to to bunts. And so I thought that second base was a little bit harder than shortstop. Obviously shortstop was a further throw, but I just felt like the thought process wise, I felt like I had to think about a lot more when I was at second base. I had to read a lot more, especially when a slapper was up who could be a slapper, a bunter / power hitter. Like, we're playing mind games with each other at that point, because she's trying to trick me, I'm trying to beat her to the bag, or be able to cover a steal. So I just felt like at second base I was involved in a lot more, and I liked that, just because it constantly kept me thinking and on my toes.
All right, how about we open it up for a live question? Anyone up there?
Hi, I'm Macy, and I play Jalapeno. I was wondering, what do you think when you go up to the plate?
So people always ask about like my mentality and stuff, and I think one big thing that I try to teach female athletes is that I understand being humble. I do, but I do think sometimes us as females are a little bit too humble, and we say sorry a lot and all that stuff. And so I try to teach athletes to not say sorry when it's not necessary, but also just like own how good you are. And I know how good I am. So when I go up to the plate, my thought process is that I don't care who's on the mound, she's not better than me, and that I'm going to get a hit. Because I put in the work, because I, did the reps, and I did everything I needed to do to get to that point and succeed. So for me, it's really, I'm kind of just hyping myself up. My thought process is she's not going to get me out. And if for some reason I get out, she didn't get me out, I got myself out. So I truly just don't ever believe that anyone can get me out. I'm sure a pitcher who's gotten me out will be like, oh, well, I got her out. Well, I would then be like, well, no, I just, I dropped my hands. That's why you got me out. I just missed it. Otherwise it would have been a home run. So, but I feel like that's the mentality you have to have. And it's vice versa. A pitcher has to have that mentality too. Like, if I come at her and say, oh, well, I draw my hands, that's why I got out. If I was a pitcher, I would fire back and be like, no, my rise ball was just really good and you couldn't hit it. So it goes to all athletes, no matter the position. It's just having that belief in yourself. And for me, I just truly believe that I'm that good. And even on my worst day, I think that I'm still one of the better athletes, and I'm going to just, put a good bat on the ball and I'm going to swing hard. So the worst thing I could do is not swing, because then I'm not giving myself an opportunity. Thanks for being.
Thank you. I had one more question, and it's, how did you develop time management?
Ooh, I definitely think travel helped, because travel ball is a lot. So I think that teaches it to you to an extent. I really don't know how I would suggest like for you to try to mimic what it's like in college, because college is like its own beast. I don't really know how to say it, but travel ball, the fact that you play travel ball or you're in travel ball, that's going to help a lot, because it keeps you busy. There's times where you're up at 5 a.m. for games, and that's going to mimic like when you're up at 5 a.m. for workouts at whatever school you go to. There's times where you're traveling and doing homework. So you think of all the times you're in the car trying to do homework and study while your parents are driving. Same thing, while you're flying on a plane, you'll see all of us college athletes out and we're studying for an exam, or we're trying to get homework done before we land. So it definitely like mimics each other, but it's hard for me to say exactly how I did it, because I think I didn't truly learn it completely until I was at Michigan. Because like I said, I had that academic advisor that really helped me. But I would say the biggest thing, and for me now, like I'm a planner, I'm going to have my day planned. I'm going to have certain things planned out, so that way I can make sure I have time to get everything done.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Do we have another question out here?
I have a question for you. So first off, go blue. Thanks again for hanging out with us and taking the time. We definitely appreciate that. Who would you say throughout your career was the toughest pitcher you ever faced, and what made them such a tough matchup for you?
The toughest pitcher I've ever faced is Monica Abbott, and it's because I've yet to get a hit off her. So I don't know how many times I've faced her. You know what? I actually think I have one hit off of her, but it was a bunt. So I don't know if you would count that as a hit. I got on base though, but see, there I go. See, there's that confidence I was talking about. I'm like, oh, well, I got a bunt for a hit. But anyways, definitely Monica Abbott. And I think the toughest thing about her was because her velocity was so fast. I think her changeup was something crazy, like 20 miles an hour off from what her fastest pitch was. So, she would go and throw me, if she came in hard, it was usually just hard. It usually wasn't for a strike. She would get me away it could probably be a fastball, honestly. She throws so dang hard. It was like 73 curve, or, whether it was just a, good pitch on the outside half, but then she would come in with this drop ball or not drop ball, sorry, this change up. And it was just, the speed difference was so far off that you would just be completely fooled, because you're over there trying to hurry up and get your foot down for something 73. And all of a sudden something way slower comes in and you're just, completely fooled out front, lunging for the ball. So she was definitely the hardest pitcher for me to hit, just with how off she was from her fastball to her changeup. There was just such a change in speed.
Any other questions?
So, okay, I have another question now, but I have really bad superstitions. Did you ever have any like in college that you believed in, like you had to do this, or like the game wouldn't go right?
Yeah. So for me, it was definitely the eye black. I always had the smeared eye black on in college. And what else? Gum. I always played with gum in my mouth. Part of it was to try to keep me from mouthing off to the umpires. It didn't always work, but I would chomp on my gum, especially when I still do it to this day. And then the other thing was chapstick. I always have chapstick on me. So I'd actually put the chapstick on my in my pants on like the left side of my leg, because I slide with my right leg under. And so I would actually have it down there, and I always had it just because I don't really know why. I'm still like that to this day. I literally have some in my pocket right now. Like I always have chapstick on me. I don't know. It's weird. And I don't know if I think that I'm going to play better with it or what, but I always have it. So those were probably the top three.
Oh, that's funny.
Weird. It's so, I don't know why. I just,
Yeah.
the shop gets me. I don't know why I have it.
I know my daughter's tickled pink because she always has to have chapstick all the time, and I give her a hard time about it.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. What was it like playing for Hutch? What's some of the memorable moments that, you know, like a Hutch moment for you?
I mean, there were a few. She knew how to push my buttons. She challenged me. She knew how to really get the best out of me as a player, but she also really helped me just develop as a person and as a woman in general. At the end of the year, there's always going to be those end of the year meetings, and she always would challenge me with something I wasn't even thinking of at the time. And I think one moment that like really changed me as an athlete was an end of the year meeting I had with her, and she had told me that there was nothing that I needed to get better at on the softball field, but she needed me to lead more and to pull more out of my teammates. And I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know what she meant. I kept asking her like, well, how do I do that? And she would give some examples, but she basically was like, well, that's for you to figure out. Like, I just am telling you that I need this from you and I'll help you. But you're going to have to figure out how you want to go about it and how you want to be a leader and how you want to get people to follow you. And so she kind of, she tasked me with that, and it was tough. And fun fact, so at Michigan, you have to like run for captain, like put yourself in to be a nominee, and then the team and coaches pick you. And I ran for captain every single year, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. Even as a freshman, I'm like, I want to be a captain. Like I'm over here thinking I'm definitely going to be a captain. And I didn't get it my freshman year. I didn't get it my sophomore year, but I got it my junior and my senior year. And, that was really junior and senior. That was when I finally figured out what she meant and what she wanted and how to serve the team in that way, not serve the team with my softball abilities, but with me, the person and like the leader side. So that was probably the biggest thing that she taught me, was just how to lead and how to speak to others and speak to people in a way in which that they'll listen, but also learn my teammates, because they're all different and you can't speak to every single person the same, and not conforming to them, but just really paying attention and listening to what they need and what they need to hear to get better. I think you're muted.
That's awesome that she invests in the player, in the person, not just the player. That's the kind of coach that you want to have.
Definitely.
Let's see here. I've got 3 more questions, and then I think we're going to call it a night. What suggestions do you have, like when you have a team, to help bring up team morale?
I feel like, so for college, that's a little bit easier because you're together all the time. For travel ball, I feel like any type of team bonding activity is always good. Something like, the team going to a movie, or, having them do kind of like a fun, like tough team activity. Like there was like something we would do. We would, do partner things where it was like competition, little things like you could do like an egg toss or a water balloon toss, like just fun things that have nothing to do with softball. But everything to do with like communication and getting to know different people on your team, just to help you branch out. Because sometimes, just like any club team, you're gonna have like cliques and people that you naturally gravitate to, but it's important to try to make time to get to know every single person, just so then that way the team can really, gel together. I think that's like the big thing. But I just think any type of team bonding stuff is really going to help, but I think also creating practices that really push that. So I think like at practice, if you do team defense, doing team things is what's going to help. Or if you do team challenges, you could do like the one pitch drill. We would do that all the time at Michigan. That's how we would end practice. Sometimes we'd get one live pitch from our pitching coach, and if it was a strike, you had to swing, and if you hit it well, you were still in it. And if you didn't hit it well, you were out. So it was really just, you literally got one pitch, make the most of it. And it was a fun, friendly competition, but I felt like it got a lot out of people because it got competitive, and people were cheering against each other, trying to make each other mess up. And it was fun. It was fun to compete. So I think anytime you can get the team to compete against each other and work together too at the same time, I think it's always good.
Oh, that's great. We sometimes have done the minute to win it drills, like those little things, the competitions.
Those are fun.
Those have been fun, but yes, team bonding is very important. The next question here is, did you ever have frustrating hitting slumps or times in the field where you felt like, it was harder, or it kept, how did you keep everything together when you had those challenging moments?
Yeah, I mean, I just had one at AU. I did really well at AUX. I felt like I never got out at AUX. And then at AU, I was like, like I didn't feel like I hit very well. Towards the end, I started to hit really well, but then by then it was too late. Season was basically over. So, I did go through that little bit of a slump. I don't believe in slumps. I just went through a period of time where I just wasn't hitting the ball as well as I normally do. But for me, it's just trying not to overthink it. And that's easier said than done. So if I'm struggling, for me, my first thought might be, okay, let's try not overdoing it. Like maybe my body just needs some rest. And so I'll try to, give myself the water, the recovery I need. If I need to work out a little bit to get my body going, maybe that's going to help me. And if that doesn't help me, then I'll start going to maybe getting in extra reps. If I'm really feeling that off, you know what, I'm going to go hit off a machine, try to see some velocity. I'm going to work on, the little things that matter and do the little drills that are going to help me improve. And so sometimes, when you're in the middle of a season and you're trying to turn it around really quick, you just have to try to have patience with yourself, because just because you put in extra work one weekend doesn't mean you're all of a sudden going to hit well for the next month. It might take a month. It might take a couple of weeks. I mean, if you're lucky, it'll take a weekend, but not all of us are lucky to just fix it like that. And then it just shows in the game. So just having that patience with yourself and figuring out what you, the athlete, needs. Some people, when they're going through a slump, they're like, I need to get away from softball. Like, on my off days, I am not picking up a ball. And that ends up helping them. It ends up for some reason resetting, and maybe they just needed to step away because they were overwhelmed with softball. Some people are like, I need to be in the gym. I need to go hit for 2 hours, or, sometimes they go overboard, or what you think is overboard, but for them, that's just what works. So figuring out what works for you as an athlete when you're struggling is huge. And I have different ways of figuring it out. And sometimes what I think I need isn't necessarily what I need. And I actually just need more reps, or maybe I need more live. But sometimes you don't know what that is right away. And you kind of have to go through the process of figuring out, how do I get myself out of this? And a lot of the times it's usually just mental. Usually it's just you overthinking your swing, and you're trying to change a million things instead of just going back to that thought process that I talked about earlier of, I'm really good and I have trained and I've done everything that I need to do to get to this point. So, just swing the bat. And that was actually what I did at the end of AU to get out of my slump. I wasn't feeling good about my swing. And at the end I was like, whatever, I'm just swinging hard and I'm just trying to make good contact. All I need to do is try to get this bat to hit that ball. I was literally keeping it that simple. Like, now that's easier said than done, but I was just trying to simplify it as much as I can. Make the bat, hit the ball, and it'll do the rest. And so once I started keeping it that simple and doing that, the muscle memory and everything I know about the game just kind of took over, and I didn't have to think. It just happened.
That's great advice. Another question here. I was wondering, and this is coming from one of our players that's now playing in college for her first season. What's the best way to keep your body and mind, healthy while you're playing a season of college softball?
Do things for yourself, whatever that might be, whatever your self-care is. Some people read, some people listen to music, some people use working out as that. For me, I definitely think working out is my self-care and like escape. That's my time to, if I'm having a bad day, to get it out. If I'm having a good day, to enjoy it. It could be literally anything. That for me, working out is like my little piece of just a time to breathe and not think about anything else, but just whatever the music is playing and lifting weights and, talking to my trainer or my friends that I'm working out with. Like it's a time for me to just have like a moment of, even though I'm not in like a quote unquote peaceful state, I'm literally throwing weights around and doing stuff. To me, that's like really good self-care for me because it makes me feel good at the end of the day. I'm taking care of my body at the same time. And then I think the other thing, which I dabbled in a little bit earlier this year, was journaling. I really liked journaling, and I had told myself that, next year, beginning of the year, I want to get back into it, but stick with it. I did it just for, a few months out of the year this past year, and I did really enjoy it. But then I think life just got a little crazy and I stopped, and I really wish that I didn't. So I'm going to, try to pick that up again, because I did really notice a difference too when I wrote things down, even if I didn't have much to say. There were times where I'd fill a page up and I wrote like 5 pages in my journal. And then there were some days I wrote a page or a half a page, but I always was trying to write something down. So I really enjoyed that and liked that a lot. But I also love music. I feel like music is a way for me I could, put my headphones in and listen to music for a long time. I feel like I'm listening to music constantly. So.
All right. And then I do have one last question. I got a bunch of thank yous that are coming in for people that have to go. But one last question, which I think it's, it's something that comes up, especially with our girls in the 18U. They're looking at colleges. They're looking at, what field that they want to go into. So like say it's nursing. And some of the schools tell them that, you can't play softball and go into the nursing program. So this athlete, her question is, what is your degree in? And then did you ever feel like your education and your degree that you had to put it on hold for softball?
Yeah, so this is tough because I could not speak on the whole nursing thing. Props to you, because I could not do that. I don't think I'm, smart enough to do that stuff. But that's a tough field in general. I have a lot of friends that are nurses, and I know it's hard. I definitely think that when I was at Michigan, there were classes or certain degrees that maybe I avoided because I just didn't think that I'd have time to truly pursue them to the extent that I needed to. Because being a college athlete and a student athlete at the same time is extremely hard. I part of me always wonders what it would be like if I went back to school as like just a student and, I didn't have any other responsibilities and I wasn't exhausted every night from, practicing and training. But that's really just what comes with being a student athlete. And that's why when you go through the recruiting process, it's so important for you to write that stuff down. Is it more important for you to be able to do nursing than it is, play at a top softball school? Because sometimes the reality of it is that nursing would take a lot of your time. So you may have to go to a smaller softball school so you can pursue the nursing side of it. And unfortunately, that is the reality of it. I'm sure there's people out there that can probably do both and play at a high level. I just think that it would be extremely hard. And I feel like those coaches are probably just being somewhat realistic. I think that it's on you to make the decision if you want to do it. they're just trying to go based off of how busy your softball schedule alone is going to be. You know, I know at Michigan, the big thing was it was really hard to get into the business school at Michigan. And if you were in the business school, it was very hard for you to do both, be an athlete and a full-time business student as well, just because of all the outside hours of work that you had to do. And those outside hours of work were your time to do softball stuff. So trying to find time in between all of that, still find time to do it. But my degree was in English and sociology. I actually kind of, now that I've gotten older, I kind of wish I would have gone into psychology. I think I would have really liked it. But you know, I feel like I learned more about it now, and I have conversations with people who know a little bit more about it, and it intrigues me a lot more. But I was always also interested in business. I took a couple of business classes. I didn't get my degree in business, but I took some classes because it was what I was interested in. With my softball schedule, it just didn't seem like I could do it and do it well. And I'm definitely one of those people who, if I'm going to do something, I want to do it to the best of my ability. And if I can't, that'll really bother me. So that was why I made the decision to basically kind of create my own degree in a sense, because I did get to still take business classes while taking other classes for my degree and things that interested me. So it's tough. I don't feel like I have the perfect answer to that, because being a college athlete is hard. It's very hard. My brother's girlfriend, she's at Baylor, and I just had dinner with her the other night, and she was talking about how classes are so hard, and has no time, and she's just a normal student. She doesn't play sports. She doesn't do anything else. And so, she was like, I couldn't even imagine if I played sports, and at a high level. Baylor's a good school. And so it is tough. And those are just all things to take into consideration when pursuing your degree. And, if school is very, very important to you and you want to be able to pursue a specific thing, you got to see what that's going to look like when it comes to pursuing that in softball. You can definitely do both. It just is going to require a lot out of you, and you have to be willing to do it.
That's great. Again, on behalf of everybody, I've been getting multiple chat messages and texts on my phone. We really appreciate your time and you answering these questions and, interacting with our players. It's greatly appreciated.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Well, we're looking forward to seeing you in February on the 25th and 26th for your camp at Capital City Baseball Kingdom. And I'm sure we'll talk again before then. But yeah. Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you. Happy holidays, everybody.
Thank you, Sierra.
Thank you, guys. Go Blue.
Go Blue.